Hello and welcome to Oak Park's own. My name is Matt Barron, and here with me at the Carlton Hotel is Cathy Yen. And Cathy is the Executive Director of the Oak Park River Forest Chamber of Commerce, which only hints at the story behind your life and what you've been doing. If you could start us in Jersey, you're a Jersey girl, and tell us how you made your way out to the Midwest. And
Sure.
people get to know you a little bit that way.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for having me, Matt. I'm delighted to be here and share a little bit of what brought me to Oak Park. Yes, I'm a Jersey girl. I grew up right in the heart of Springsteen country, if you will, in central New Jersey, where most of my family continues to reside. I went to school at Princeton, also in New Jersey. At the time, it seemed worlds away, but I quickly learned it was only on the other side of a very small state. I met my husband, Scott, at Princeton. He's from California. After we were in college, he went on to medical school here in the Midwest. He went to the University of Chicago. After a stint out in Berkeley for 2 years, I joined him in Hyde Park. And we lived in Hyde Park for maybe 3 years and decided it was time to set down some roots and really had a very short list of places we would consider. And Oak Park was on the list and certainly the winner of that contest.
All right. So that's about almost 20 years now.
It's about 20 years ago. Yeah,
Okay.
It's about 20 years ago. And it's funny, Oak Park, of course, really is all about diversity. And my husband's Asian, and so we kind of buy into that just from the get-go. But we defined diversity when we looked for a place to live as restaurants. And 20 years ago, the diversity of restaurants that you see fairly ubiquitously was not the case, even in suburbs of Chicago. So our rule was we would look at a house, and then we would go out to eat. And if we liked the restaurants, that made us like the house more. And that was at a time, again, 20 years ago, when Thai restaurants were considered exotic. And here in Oak Park, we were able to find pretty much anything we were looking for.
Wow.
So diversity was restaurants to us at that time.
Interesting. Okay, well, there's a lot of other diversity in town.
That's for sure.
And diversity in your career. Now, you
Yes.
worked in the world of finance for a good while.
I did.
And so in corporate America, helping, talk about that for a little bit.
Sure.
And then also
Sure.
how you segued out of that and
Sure.
what prompted you to go from that into business ownership.
Absolutely. You know, we have grand visions in college, and my grand vision was international studies, international business, export, import, that sort of thing. And after graduating college, I went on to Berkeley for a master's in Asian studies and worked in the field of Chinese and Taiwanese economic trade relations. And that was interesting academically. I loved it, but it became clear that much international travel is involved in international trade, and it is difficult to reconcile having a family and raising children with an international trade career. So we all make our own choices, and I decided to come more inward, if you will, literally and figuratively, and move to the Midwest. I did go right into banking, where I did a program at what was then called the First National Bank of Chicago, FNBC we called it 20 years ago. It's now Chase, and was many things in between. And I did a program there where I worked in various areas throughout the bank and went to business school at night and got an MBA. So became very interested in strategic financial planning for corporations, budgeting, and general business management.
All right. And so from there, pretty, it would seem to me, stable and somewhat predictable in terms of your own path. What prompted you to then, I know, I first met you actually when you were a proprietor of Great Harvest Bread Company. One of over 200 in the nation, and great business over the years. So how did that all come about?
Well, it's funny, you know, throughout our conversation you'll hear my own family come up many times, and this was a major family issue. As I continued to climb the ranks of corporate America, we got back to that issue of traveling, leaving home. The work hours became significant. 12-hour days were fairly normal. And we had fabulous childcare. By 2005, I had my 2 children, and things were okay. We were making it work, but I was a promotion away from it all falling apart. I also became very conscious of coming from 2-generation immigrant family, my husband coming from an immigrant family where people worked. and worked hard, and we had both gotten into service careers where our children didn't see work anymore. They had lost that sense of what work looked like. Mom got on the L, Dad was gone, and they were fine. Somebody else drove them to their activities, and we decided that that was not right for the way we wanted to raise our children. So we jumped in whole hog. Scott stayed in his practice here, his medical practice here in Oak Park River Forest. I was fortunate enough to stumble upon, through a T-ball team, another parent.
That's where all the business deals are made in town, anyway.
T-ball is big in Oak Park for sure, and eventually baseball, but yeah, T-ball is where it goes down. Another parent had owned Great Harvest. They were making similar career changes and moving, and I've always loved to bake. My grandmother came over from Ireland and baked every morning. That was her thing. And so I was delighted to buy Great Harvest. Right. And it was a way for my children to literally see what work looked like.
Right, right. And so, you know, I remember you were at a chamber event, fall of 2005.
Yes.
In your role as owner of the Great Harvest, and you were providing, and then I joined the chamber actually thereafter, and it's been a great organization ever since. And so it's kind of neat to think now you're the director, executive director, and what you're doing now. What impact has your ownership of Great Harvest?
Sure.
As well as everything else, but that's specifically on what you're doing now as director. What effect is it having on your day-to-day leadership of the chamber?
It's part of me every day. Running the chamber as executive director is running a small business, and Great Harvest was a small business for sure. And I learned immediately at Great Harvest what I am extremely good at and what I am not very good at, and that was a lesson that's hard to learn, especially after you've achieved such success in corporate America. It doesn't always translate. But Great Harvest translates directly into the chamber. I can see business models and what makes sense for different organizations given location, given pricing, given customers. I also have a better sense not only of what customers are looking for here in our community, but also what are the challenges. People say it's hard to run a small business. I've done that here, and I know what our clients at the chamber are talking about.
Interesting. So I'm curious, you know, I know one of the things that you did at Great Harvest, and I appreciated with my 2 young children at the time, were the free samples.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And we would buy loaves of bread as well and other things, but the sampling. And I know sometimes people can abuse that.
Sure.
Sometimes younger people come in as they think it's their own. Is there an analogy between that and what's happening in Oak Park or more broadly in terms of people wanting stuff without necessarily understanding the impact of not paying fair share?
Sure. You know, it's funny. When I was running the bakery, people came to me all of the time, and you know, fairly well-known people, successful business people in the community, and would say, you got to stop those samples, especially the high school kids. They're eating you out of house and home. And I have to tell you that it was probably the most successful part of our business. Giving the samples created an energy, it created a sense of happiness, it created, maybe not for the person taking the sample, but their parents would come in and they would buy things saying, thanks for feeding my son, my daughter, I know they keep coming in here. Yeah, certainly there was a little bit of entitlement, but I would not ever do anything different. And I see linkages to the chamber. In many ways, these businesses follow almost a public radio model. Giving to everyone and giving freely and making your services available to uplift the whole community will ultimately bring you goodwill. And that sounds very crunchy, granola, Oak Park, but we definitely saw that in sales at Great Harvest. We definitely see that in the chamber. I don't need every single business to become a member of the chamber. I need a good core group that's going to help us offset the operational expenses, but with that, hopefully we can lift all business throughout the community in a way that everyone feels like they can be part of it.
You know, I know the chamber can be many things, many different things to different people. And so I know you've got a great website, a newly improved website, the Facebook page. So without going to all the 9 yards, what are what are some things that someone who's thinking about joining the chamber, whether it's a solo practitioner or a bigger company, what are some things that would be in it for them?
We're trying to really categorize it into 4 piles of benefits, if you will. Certainly, we are here as advocates and the voice of business for the community. Now, that may or may not translate to a $1 increase in sales for your membership, but if you have a civic sense of responsibility, or frankly, the budget to be able to put money towards that sense, we're here to represent businesses and work with the village governments and also work with the business districts to get the voice of folks to the people who are making decisions. So we like to call that advocacy. That's certainly number 1. Education is a second piece. We're rolling out programming that will hopefully appeal to quite a few people as to how to keep their own skills up in manageable bites. How do you have an effective social media campaign? How do you have a good accounting system? What's a good marketing? We just ran something on healthcare insurance. So what are the continuing ed pieces that are missing from your own continuing education as a business person? How can we get that from the chamber? So those are 2 really important ones. The other 2 are promotion, and the website helps. We also have some tangible ways that businesses can promote themselves, either to residents or to businesses. And then the 4th piece is really a sense of community and a sense of networking. Networking is always important to chamber people. I'll go back to your question about Great Harvest. What did I learn there? Ironically, being in the customer realm all day is incredibly lonely. You are without peers. You are in charge of a business. People are looking up to you. Customers are talking to you all of the time. It's not like corporate America where you could take 15 minutes and go over to the water cooler and talk with people who are of the same mindset and skill set and project base. It's lonely being a small business person. And we like to provide that sense of community. Use it whenever you can. Come to breakfasts, come to lunches, maybe just give us a call, maybe we'll stop in, so that the businesses know there are ways to connect, not only to your peers, your neighbors, but people who are having the same issues.
Right, interesting. How did it come about that you became director? I know that you had a lot of different opportunities that you could have pursued. So who approached you, or how did it come about? And also, was your immediate reaction yes, or did it not? I'm curious how that journey occurred.
Well, it's a funny story. I will tell you all day long how much I loved running Great Harvest. It ultimately was not a great business model for that location, so we went in a different direction, but I loved running that. Having said that, after leaving this big job, completely changing my life in terms of hours, what I wore, what I did, within about 6 weeks, I started saying, oh, I don't know if this was such a good idea, if I was the right person to do that. And right when I was having those second thoughts, which of course are too late, I had already bought the business, but right when I was having those second thoughts, didn't Jim Doss walk in the side door and say, let me tell you about the chamber, and try to get me to join the chamber, which I did, and that was fine. I had a visceral connection to what Jim was trying to do immediately, and said to myself, oh, that would have been a better job. So in 2005, when Jim walked through Great Harvest, I said, I really wish I had Jim's job. Now, then I carried on for another however many years it was. After Great Harvest, I did some work with small businesses. I did consulting. I did some nonprofit work, a variety of different things, blogging, writing, really working on my own skill set. And I happened to be at a meeting there's always meetings in Oak Park. I was at a business meeting, and I happened to be sitting with someone who said, did you hear Jim Doss is retiring? And now Jim is just an icon in the community. You know, he should be sitting in this chair talking to you, not me. Wonderful person, wonderful person. But of course, I had envied his job for almost a decade. Well, I think I had my resume to the committee within about 45 minutes after hearing that Jim was retiring.
So you good posture there, Cathy.
Oh, gosh.
It wasn't 5 minutes. Nice job.
No, so 45 minutes.
So great. So I'm curious about the reality versus your expectations. And how's it been going? It's been so far 8 months.
Sure.
So so what's maybe one surprise, whether it's pleasant or not so pleasant surprise of the job?
The pleasant surprise is that I wake up every day wanting to do it. You know, I mean, we get paid to work, and sometimes it's not always, you know, sometimes you'd rather stay in bed. I love my job, you know, and I continue to. And it's not easy. You know, it's exhausting, and there are challenges, and there's work to be done, and we have a long road ahead of us to accomplish some of the things we need to. But it is absolutely a joy.
That's great to hear. You know, one thing that I know has been a huge issue in the last year with the new village president,
Sure.
with Anand, and his focus on economic development and becoming more business friendly,
Right.
To draw in more businesses, bigger businesses, you name it.
Sure.
What role do you see the chamber playing in all of that?
A community with a strong business community, as awkwardly as that was said, will attract more businesses. When you have a very vibrant chamber and a very vibrant business scene, businesses want to be part of it. So certainly when you create your spreadsheets about whether or not you're going to invest and build and all of that, there are numbers, obviously. Customers are critical, the demographics and all the rest of it. But what we like to say is after you've stopped in to look at a site and the broker or the development corp or the politicians leave, you drive around the block and then you go and ask all the different neighbors who are running businesses, is this a good place to be? The chamber adds to that.
Yeah.
We create a scene that people want to be part of.
It's interesting, the analogy between you as a resident looking at it and looking at the restaurants and how that helped
Absolutely.
you know, determine this is where you wanted to be.
Sure.
Businesses come in, and I wonder to what degree what they're looking at. And I know it's not the same thing.
Sure.
But restaurants are certainly part of that.
Absolutely.
And what are some of the things that maybe aren't as well known or obvious that they look for that maybe people in the community could actually play a role in actively drawing in some of these sought-after businesses?
By that you mean the community being the residents or the community of businesses?
All the above.
Well, I would really ask that the residents very intentionally and positively use the internet tools at their disposal to voice their opinions. And we see on chat boards, we see on Yelp, we see on various places people expressing opinions about we should have so-and-so, we should have this person, we should have that person. We do need residents to understand that everything is a business, and so the financials have to be in place. But when you start to get a groundswell of posts or responses or tweets or Facebook pictures, that's when other businesses start to look up and say, hey, maybe this is the spot for us.
Right. Changing gears a little bit, but not entirely different, is community service and philanthropy. And I know Oak Park is strong in that area. You're the president of the Huskies Boosters Club.
I am at the high school,
The high school. Can you talk about that a little bit and just explain what that is for those who don't know what it does?
Right. The Husky Booster Club is a pretty big organization in the school. It's been around since 1974 and acts as an umbrella organization across all of the extracurriculars throughout the school. And that includes arts, that includes athletics, and that includes activities. So the Husky Booster Club acts as an organization that can provide a platform for communication, for, again, back to social media, internet, Facebook, that sort of thing, and also raising money to support all of these organizations. Certainly, if your son or daughter is on a team or a club, you may have some fundraising that's specific to that organization, but that's rarely enough to buy something large. For example, the lights at the stadium, the drapery in the theater, major computer work. The Husky Booster Club steps in and does that. We also like to create a community of parents. Often, back to T-ball, you will be very, very close to the parents in your neighborhood based on what your children are doing. And then, just a symptom of the world we live in now, things get focused really quickly. And by about middle school, people start to go that way. And you lose a sense of neighborhood, you lose a sense of community. Husky Boosters try to bring that back. So it's very rare that you'll see a hockey mom and a dance mom and a wrestling mom and a theater mom all at one meeting. The Booster Club brings that together.
That's great. What a great community building element there. One last question.
Yeah, sure.
And we're going to be out of time, but that's the theme of the question. That's
sure.
time.
Sure.
And time management. And we've been talking, and a lot of these things we're talking about, you're doing right now.
Sure.
At the same time.
Sure.
So what, over the years, what are some tips or tricks that you've picked up that you apply that might be helpful for people to learn about how Cathy Yen
sure.
manages her crazy 24 hours with 2 children, high school for one,
sure.
middle school for the other?
We actually both have both in high school. Right.
A physician
sure.
who's got his own
sure.
busyness.
Sure.
All these. So how do you do it?
There are 3 maybe points that I'm going to leave you with. Number 1 is Google Calendar, and every person has their own Google Calendar that reports the activities of every other family member on the phone. So each one of us knows where everyone else is in a different color code. The calendar is key.
So color-coded too?
Color-coded.
What color are you?
I am pink.
Okay.
I am pink, yeah.
Appropriate, I would say.
The other thing is teaching everyone, and this is important in this day and age, it's not mom's job. It's your job to let the rest of the family know that you have wrestling practice, and it's your job to know that you need a ride to dance, and it's your job to know that you have a chamber meeting at 7 in the morning. So we have a community in our own little family around that. That's number 1. Number 2 is the crock pot. We plan meals at the beginning of the week, and we get all of that sorted out so that meals are not a crisis. They're actually something to bring the family together in an enjoyable way. And number 3 is we got to cut this short because I have to go to the health club. Somewhere you have to stay healthy, and you have to forgive yourself for the hour it's going to take to work out or to do whatever is going to put your mind and your body in a place where you can keep going.
It's not a sprint, it's a marathon.
It's not a sprint.
So, well, thank you for this time. And
I appreciate it.
And again, thanks to Carlton Hotel for hosting.
Yes, it's a beautiful place.
This last installment of Oak Park's Own. And so we really appreciate it, Cathy. Best wishes. I'm not going to say good luck.
Pat.
I know it's not about luck.
I'll see you for sure. Yeah.
Best wishes as you
Thank
proceed.
you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.